What's going on, everybody? My name's Spence,
And I'm Mitch.
and we're two brothers that really love King of the Hill, and we're reviewing every single episode in the series. And today, we're on the third episode, Order of the Straight Arrow. So this one I feel is like a filler episode. During rewatches, a lot of times this is actually one I end up kind of skipping. So not like it's bad or anything like that.
I'd say I'm in the same category as you, but I think this is an episode that you would like if you're a baby boomer.
Yeah, I figure that our dad probably did a lot of stuff like this when he was a kid, right? Because especially when we go and we see the flashback about the boys, it takes place in 1966, and that makes them roughly the same age as
Our dad.
And I was thinking that I bet you that for those greatest generation parents, like, messing with their kids was probably one of the major forms of their entertainment. Like, what are those going to do before the internet and stuff like that? You can't remember you really doing scouts. I did a little bit of scouts, but it didn't really take for me.
I did a little bit of scouts, but it was weird because I ended up liking all that stuff as an adult, but not liking it as a kid.
We're going to get introduced to John Redcorn's first speaking role here. And funny random fact is that the actor playing John Redcorn is not the actor that we come to know and love as the predominant voice actor. The guy who actually played this guy initially, the actor, dies in between season 1 and season 2, so they had to recast him. The intro for John Redcorn's a little awkward because of that. It's a different voice actor. And he's got this weird headband that they end up getting rid of.
Yeah, he doesn't need the weird headband.
The first actor, Victor Aaron, ends up dying in between season 1 and 2.
And he's replaced with Jonathan Joss, who is the actor we all know and love as John Redcorn.
Yeah, and actually, I think Jonathan does a great job as John Redcorn. He's one of my favorite voice actors. John Redcorn, not one of my favorite characters, but he's one of my favorite voice actors because every time I talk to a Native American person, I just imagine John Redcorn.
His voice is synonymous with the culture.
But anyways, they end up asking John Redcorn for some sacred Indian traditions to mess with the boys on the camping trip. And he talks about Weematanya and a spirit bag. I looked it up. It's all a bunch of nonsense. That's not something that exists. There's no spirit bag or Weematanya, unfortunately. But the guys eat it up. And they, of course, say that they're going to use this on the trip itself. I feel like Hank is super lucky to have his 4 friends, like, live as neighbors.
The neighbors.
Right beside each other. Like, our dad has some friends that are akin to, like, Dale Boomhauer and Bill in his life. But they don't all live together like they do in the TV series. And I feel like that's pretty lucky for Hank. But Bobby clearly doesn't have the same kind of relationship. He only has Joseph. And then we have these, like, other 2 kids that are on the camping trip. And whatever, Eustace's kid.
Randy.
Randy, yeah. Randy is kind of occasionally in the series, but he's not actually Bobby's friend. Then there's this blonde kid, Garth, who just gets shafted. No one gives a shit about him. He doesn't appear.
Never seen again.
Shoved into the dustbin of history.
Poor Garth.
Poor Garth. Justice for Garth.
Looks like Boomhauer's kid, though.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's secretly Boomhauer's kid. So on the camping trip, one of the things that they used to mess with the kids is they give them these silent sticks that are actually just Slim Jims. And it's really just a scheme to keep the adults fed. But here we have very different opinions on Slim Jims. I personally am not a big fan of Slim Jims, but Mitch here can't get enough of them.
I can't. I'll get one every time I go into the gas station. Man. It's inevitable.
And I feel like they get pricier every time I look at them. Like,
it's sickening, but
they used to be like, $3. Now it's like $8. It's like unreal.
Best $8 you ever spent, though.
They get to the camping ground, and we can see that it's overrun with hippies. Because it's Earth Day. The hippies don't really end up playing much of a role in the episode, though.
It's a nice touch that they show her armpit hair, though.
It is pretty funny, yeah. That is pretty funny. And you can, of course, see her nipple. They mention that she's not wearing a bra either. They're just background, though, for the episode. And we have Piggy embarking on some kind of secret trip throughout this episode. It's not clear as to what the hell she's actually doing. But we'll get a reveal here shortly, but it's just kind of like a random side plot. Bobby's pretty convinced that his dad is telling him the truth and that everything that they're doing is 100% serious and 100% legitimate. and he can't fathom the idea that his dad would lie to him about all of this stuff. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I always felt like I knew our dad bullshitted us about certain things in life pretty quick.
I always believed him.
Oh yeah, you were on the Bobby side. Yeah, fortunately, our dad never played like a lot of pranks like this on us or anything like that. At least maybe not to me. I remember he told me once that his dad, our grandpa, played a lot of practical jokes on him a lot of the time. I remember he told me once, I don't know if he ever told you this story, that once his dad, it was April Fool's and it was on a Saturday. And grandpa gets him up. He's like, hey, you got to go to school. You got to get ready. You got to go to school. And then he gets ready and he's about to go out the door. And then grandpa reveals that it was an April Fool's joke. Poor dad.
I think you just answered your own point there.
What do you mean?
That greatest generation parents
Oh, yeah.
playing jokes on their
Oh,
kids.
yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. Yeah, dad told me that a few times grandpa would do that to him. Though I'm thankful he didn't carry on the tradition personally.
It's fun to just get him fired up. That's about as far as the jokes go.
So now that we have the real dilemma of the episode where Hank sends the boys out on a snipe hunt and they end up, or rather Bobby ends up whacking a crane to death. And it ends up not just being any old crane, but a very endangered species of whooping crane. Now only 4 left in the world. And obviously the guys are scrambling trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. So they just stashed it in the cooler. But the next morning, the park ranger shows up because the whooping crane has a tracking device on it. And they track him to the campsite. And we get one of my personal favorite Boomhauer moments in the entire series where he confesses the entire crime. He confesses everything that's happened. And the officer can't understand the words that he's saying. Just perfect gag.
Damn,
Yeah, man, I tell you what, doing one of them snipe hunts last night, man, with them sticks and bag and them whack, man, if he'd go woo-loo, talking about that big mistake, y'all, right there in that cooler.
Well, if you do see anything, you can contact the ranger station.
Bobby just continues to eat up the whole Weematanya thing, hoping that Weematanya will somehow revive the crane. And it's just continually bothering Hank more and more. Because he's just trying to figure out how the hell they're going to get out of this mess. And Bobby keeps picking up the crane, and not to mention, I can't imagine how dirty that would be. I would not want to be touching even a beautiful endangered bird. I would not want to be touching its corpse.
It's still a dead animal.
It's still a dead animal, yeah. We finally get a reveal for what Piggy is up to in the episode. And she spent the whole trip going to a large ladies' shoe store, which ends up being a real key point for her character because we find out that she's got an obvious deep insecurity about her large feet. So much so that she has to hide what she's doing.
Men's 16.
Men's 16, man, that's a pretty sizable foot. I love that they take that small little aspect about her and just keep it throughout the entire series, and it just ends up being like just one of those little key points, right, that makes Piggy as a character more fully fledged. So the hippies rat out Hank, obviously. And one of my favorite scenes where the hippies smash the bird eggs and then try and hit them with hacky sacks.
They attack Hank with frisbees and hacky sacks.
Of course they rat out Hank, and they have to flee the campground trying to dispose of the bird carcass.
Wimitanya wants us to honor the bird's sacred spirit.
And we will do just that in the dumpster behind Stucky's.
They try and shove it in a sewer on the side of the road, but it won't fit. And Bobby managed to finally break Hank by trying to revive the bird by splashing some water on it, and Hank loses it and tells Bobby that everything that they're doing is a big hoax. It's all a prank that they're playing on them. And Weematanya is a bunch of BS. And Bobby's real broken up about that because, like, he believed in his father and he believed that he was being truthful to him.
No young lad wants to hear that his dad's been lying to him the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
For his personal entertainment.
Fortunately for them, they managed to get out of danger in the nick of time because just as the park ranger's about to arrest him, the bird revives somehow, miraculously. They all go home okay.
It's left up to the audience to decide what actually revived the bird, because the bird was dead for quite a while.
The bird was dead. And not only that, it was shoved in a cooler for an entire night. I imagine that it would probably run out of oxygen in there and suffocate, but I wouldn't know for sure. But yeah, overall, this episode, I think it's, one of the more okay ones. It's not a bad episode, and it's got some good gags, but it's just not one that, resonates with me. It's not a top of mind episode, really.
It's not really one that you ever talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But apparently we're saying that this is one of Dad's favorite episodes.
Yeah.
This one in particular. So maybe there's something about it that resonates with him. But obviously the funniest moment and the best line is Boomhauer confessing the entire crime. I think that line alone made me boost this episode up from a 6 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. I was going to say a 7.5.
7.5, slightly better, but yeah, not a great episode, but definitely a good, solid episode. Not too much to complain about, but, just for King of the Hill, I feel like it's middle of the road, which is, by King of the Hill quality, that's pretty good, but...
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And there aren't really any bad episodes.
I would disagree with that. There are a few that are bad. Next, number 4, episode 4 in season 1, I think is a bad episode.
It's a stinker?
It's a stinker. But other than that, you're right. There's very, very few bad episodes in the series.
I'm going to sell propane and propane accessories, if my grades are good enough. Oh, kids and their crazy dreams.
I'm so depressed I can't even blink.